We are live now.
Thank you very much for coming to this session. My name is Matthew Zinkoma. I'm the head of the School of Business and Management here at RMIT Vietnam. I would like to welcome you to our Business Talk series. This is the series number 3, and the title for our workshop today is Impact of COVID-19 to the Marketing Industry, Local and Global Perspective. I would like also to thank the 2 programs that are sponsoring this seminar, and that's the Digital Marketing and Digital Business. Here at RMIT within the School of Business and Management, I think it's been the reason why we established this school is to produce graduates that are ready to solve real business problems. And this is at the heart of our strategy in making sure that by the time our students are graduating are ready to take on different challenges that the world can throw into them. So our students learn the skills to address real world business issues. We deliver work-related graduates with skills to adapt to a challenging and ever-changing world. And that's the reason why this difficult time, we are inviting people from the industry to share their experience, but also people from academia, so that they can also share the experience from their perspective in learning and teaching. So we have invited people from the marketing and digital business industry with our academics, but also our professional staff. I would like to welcome all our students and also our teaching and professional staff. Without further ado, I would like to hand you over to Ms. Seng, who will introduce our speakers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Matthew Zinkoma. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Seng. Now I would like to welcome our special guest speakers, who are Mr. Tom Simpson from AdColony and Ms. Thao from Baemin. So please let me introduce our speakers for today. First of all, I would like to welcome Mr. Tom Simpson, the Senior Vice President of AdColony. Tom currently leads the Asia Pacific business for AdColony, the largest global mobile app marketing platform. Tom is a global digital professional with over 15 years technology and marketing industry experience at startups, agencies, and multinationals. He has worked across video, performance, artificial intelligence, programmatic, blockchain, mobile gaming, online retail, and data with the world's largest brands. Tom was also one of Campaign Asia's 40 under 40 marketers to watch for the future. Besides, he is a board member of MMA, a global mobile marketing association in Asia Pacific. He is also a gaming and esports committee member of IAB, Interactive Advertising Bureau, in Southeast Asia and India. He has contributed to the development of industry standards, research, and legal support for his online advertising industry. So his talk today is about what COVID-19 can teach us about the evolution of marketing in the digital age from the global perspective. Our second speaker today is Ms. Thao. Thao is the head of marketing from Baemin. She is a value-driven marketer with a passion for growth and extensive experiences in consumer goods, education services, and food delivery. Currently, Thao is the head of marketing of Baemin. Baemin is a food delivery platform invested by Woowa Brothers, one of Asia's unicorn startups. She is driving the growth of Baemin's users and numbers of others, from a fresh joiner to the solid top 3 in the market. Before Baemin, she was the chief operating officers for SSA Sports Skill Academy, which provides professional sports training services for 1,500 Vietnamese kids. And earlier in her career, she worked at Unilever, managed the laundry category, including Omomatic, Surf, and Comfort. And her talk today is about marketing strategies and communications for the digital age from the local perspective. So thank you very much to these 2 key speakers. Now I would like to pass over to Ms. Thao, our first presenter. Thank you, Thao. Now over to you.
Thanks, Sam, for the very nice introduction. Can I have my slides, please? Okay, and to the first slide. Yeah. Can we go up for the first one? Okay, great, thanks. So hi everyone. So in case you are not familiar with Baemin, just let me do a quick introduction again. So we operate a food delivery platform and we just started in Ho Chi Minh City for 1 year. So our services is very much similar to GrabFood, which is probably what you're more familiar with, except for the fact that we operate entirely on the food verticals. So in this talk, I give you an insider glance of how us as a digital native company adapted to the situation of COVID-19. Can I have the next slide, please? So I think adaptability is a very familiar concept, both in business and in marketing. So adaptability just basically means the ability or the willingness to change in order to suit with a different condition. So in marketing, that happens a lot when the context of the customer change, when the expectation of the customer change. And over the time, in order to survive, we have to update our businesses, our products, our offers, and also our marketing messages in order to suit with the new change in the outside world. So can I have the next slide? So digital has always been an enabler in order for us to do that, thanks to its advantages over traditional marketing. So in digital, we can deliver a message in a much faster way. Probably the moment that we can come up with it, you can put it on air in social media, in a lot of different digital platforms. In digital, we can also target our audience much better. So we have a lot of parameters, either it's the geography, psychology, interest, or the actual behavior of the audience as targeting tools. After we can target the audience, we usually be able to do like really personalized offer. That I give you an example of the next slide. We can do it at a much, sorry, can I still have the previous one? And we can usually do it at a much less fixed cost compared to traditional media. And also the results are usually very measurable, visible towards the business objective that we set out at the beginning. So as a digital native company, which offer the services both online and offline, we've done a bit of both. Can I have the next slide? So when we ask our audiences what kind of messages they want to hear, 8 out of 10 of our customers want to receive a really personalized messages. So if we do traditional media, which we are still doing to establish the brand top of mind awareness and also salience, like the billboard that you see here on the left-hand side, we just have one message and the message will be there for everyone at any time. But in one of our digital channels, which is in-app push notification, we are able to adapt our messages much better to the context of the audience. For example, if the weather outside is like a sunny day, we know that the demand is probably going up because of the heat. We can adapt the message towards the weather and insert it in the call to action. If we know that a person who has ordered noodles before and they were happy with the food, they are much more likely to order it again. So we can adapt our messages towards the actual users or the actual user behavior. And if we want to send out a really emotional messages, we want to be able to address the customer by name, we were able to do that with digital as well. So these were all the benefits that over the years, digital marketers have been able to do it over digital marketing tools. But the situation of COVID-19 was completely different. So we're not talking about changes that happens in a couple of years or the consumer taste or consumer evolution that happened over a couple of months, but things happens in the speed of weeks. Can I have the next slide, please? So to us, it was really a very kind of like different adaptability test that we probably have a very limited time frame in order to perform. So if you recall the situation, can I have the next slide? Yes. So the whole COVID-19 was happening really, really fast, especially here in Vietnam, probably by the mid of March towards the whole month of April. Things changed really, really fast. So you can see that the street from the pictures on the left-hand side of a really, really busy one to become completely empty within one day of the announcement of the social distancing. And instead of having a huge pool of audience, our key target audience are actually the office worker who work from 9 to 5 in the context of the office. Now they all stay at home and practice social distancing. So instead of ordering from the office, now people stay at home, they eat at home. They are in a completely different context. So what we quickly realized was that in the next slide, if we want to stay true to our brand persona, which we set out to be as real and as authentic to the audience as possible, we have to change the way that we talk to our audience. Our call to action used to be, let's have lunch with Baemin in the office, let's have the office afternoon snack with some colleagues. Now it's no longer the case. We realize that we have to do a whole set of new conversation, which is empathetic to the situation of the working at home people. So what we did was we quickly developed a series of online content. Can I have the next slide? That feature people in their work at home context. So this is our series of content in which we talk about the problems, the emotions, the issues that people have during their social distancing period. And we play our brand offers within this context. For example, it's a kindly remind people that if you stay at home, you probably have to change your favorite delivery address of lunch from the office to the home. Or one of the things that people talk a lot about was that they miss their colleagues, they miss the food that they usually have together, they miss the moment of sharing. So we want to feature that and be as real, as timely towards the situation of COVID-19 as possible. So this is our first step, which is to establish our empathy and our sympathetic conversation with our audience. Another insight that we quickly realized, can I have the next slide, was that for the COVID-19, most people have to stay at home. So working from home or staying at home was great for the first day. It was okay for the last couple of days. But when it comes to weeks of not going out, it becomes a kind of like boredom for most of the people. So what is the motivation or what is the insights behind? So we realized that the motivation for people to stay at home, aside from their own fear of being contracted with the disease, was a sense of community, of doing something together, of giving a hand and helping Vietnam to stop the disease together. So we feel that it's one of our brand responsibility to kind of like encourage that spirit and to ignite a sense of communities towards our target audience. So the role of Baemin is we do food delivery, and we know that when it comes to food, if people have to stay at home, one thing that they would miss is their favorite food, which they normally have to get outside. So we did a campaign during this time frame of social distancing, which we call the Eat at Home campaign. Can I have the next slide? Yeah. So within our Eat at Home campaign, what we set out to do was to feature how the whole community, how the whole society is kind of like holding hands together and have a statement that eat at home is still good during the COVID-19 situations. So one of the things that we did was that we realized a social trend that TikTok was become crazy popular digital channels during this time period. So most of our audience are the young spirits. When they stay at home a lot, they have a lot of free time. So they usually go to TikTok to see what other people are doing. So we quickly adapted our communication message to this new emerging channel during the COVID-19 time. What we did was that, can I have the next slide? So we partner with a lot of TikTok KOLs to send out our key message of eating at home is still good, ăn ở nhà cũng ngon to the youngster. So we give them the free code so that they can order the food via Baemin, experience the food and share that experience with other people. So the key methodology here is via a very young and trendy jingles, which we think that will help us deliver the message in a very effective way to our audience. But during the COVID-19, what we also learned is that our users got impacted. But as a food delivery platform, our audiences are not just our users, but also the whole F&B business who have to close their restaurants and only have their businesses via online channels. They're no longer being able to operate in the offline channels. So one of our key responsibility as a food delivery platform in this tough time is also to promote the businesses of our partners who are still trying hard to open. So the second activity that we were able to do online during this big time, can I have the next slide, was that we really want to nurture and then to support our communities, the businesses who F&B, food and beverage businesses, who very much got impacted by COVID-19. So can I have the next slide? So what we did was that we did a series of promotion and also the social content to feature all the restaurants that were still open, and then let our users know that even though they're staying at home, they can still order via our platforms. We also feature all the kind of like precaution activities that we're doing together with our restaurants, our merchants, and our partners to prevent the disease. And we wanted to feature that to our users so that we can target the insights of the user, that even though they're staying at home and avoiding the contact, they can be ensured that the food qualities and also all the precautions methodologies were very much being taken care by both us and then our partners. So here in the photos, you can see that even though during the social distancing, we couldn't take the pictures, but we asked the merchants to take the pictures themselves, send it over to us, and then we posted it on our app as well as on our digital channels so that our users can still see what's going on, even though they're staying at home. Some of our communication or promotion message were very much tailored towards the situation as well. So as a food delivery platform, a lot of our order volume was very occasional. So we know that, for example, like during the Hung Ancestor Festival, which is usually one of our big occasions for ordering, when people having party together now become an eat at home event. So we inserted the message of eat at home even when we do the promotions for the Home Ancestor event. So these content were very much welcomed by our target audience. So they saw that we made an effort to promote our partners and also made an effort to promote what is going on as the whole community and how to stop the COVID-19 disease. Can I have the next slide, please? So another community that we set out to do an instant support during this tough time was actually our rider, who was in the front line of contacting and who probably face the highest level of risk when they have to do the food delivery. So we did a campaign to support them with all the masks, all the hand sanitizers, and then the new policy of 2 meters in contact with the users when they deliver the food. We also quickly set out the fund in order to support them. So as our offices were actually closed during this period, we even used digital channels and digital marketing to send out these messages to our rider community and then let them receive the gifts and then receive the messages entirely online. Can I have the next slide, please? So one of the new thing and also the interesting thing that we did, thanks to the age of digital, was to listen to the voice of our audience even though we are not there. So from social listening, we saw a new trend happening as people stay at home. So the trend that was happening, as you probably know or notice around you, is that people tend to cook a lot more as they stay at home. Number one is that they have a lot more time, but the second reason is also they feel that it's much safer to prepare for the food themselves. So given that's a new trend that we see, we know that what people demand right now is not just the ready-to-eat food that they miss, but also the ready-to-cook ingredients or the raw ingredients that enables them to be able to cook at home. So in a couple of weeks, we quickly launched out a completely new service in our platform called Baemin Detail, which means Baemin goes to the market. Can I have the next slide? So what we did was that we partnered with some of the grocery food raw ingredients suppliers, and we offer services in which the Baemin rider can go and shop the raw ingredients for people and quickly deliver it to them within less than 1 hour. So they ensure that people can still stay at home and have all of their food needs via our platforms. Either they want the ready to cook or they want the raw ingredients in order to cook it by themselves. I think if I have to summarize the 2 key learnings during this period of time, I think number one is that so we were lucky. Can I have the next slide? Thanks. So the number one is probably that we were lucky enough to be completely a digital native company that enable us to be very familiar with all the digital tools and then digital marketing. But I think the key question here is not just like what we can do, but how we were able to do it. Because digital channel is more like an enabling technology. But in order to fully capture it, we were lucky enough to have a culture of adaptability within our team already. So I think the team was able to quickly sense the change in the market and then pivot the right communication messages that can target our audience in this difficult time. But at the same time, we were lucky enough to have a brand that is pretty consistent, and we know who we are and what we can consistently offer to people as our brand value, which is to stay relevant to the contextual and always try to do our best to support the communities that we serve. So that was the key thing that I think COVID-19 taught us about what's important to adapt to the market and how to continue to even do it with the further or the future crisis. So the second learning that we have is also the spirit of Forever 21. So as our business just operated in Vietnam for 1 year, our company is still in the learning phase, and the COVID-19 happens was something that got us quite a lot of learning, and we want to keep on learning further. And one of the things we realized is within the pandemics, when things change very fast and we probably don't have time for careful plan, things need to happen fast at all, and we should in place the spirit of experimental. When we are young, we probably feel less and we probably learn more. So that's what we did with all of our campaigns and then initiatives that I have shared. So which shocked us was that all of the initiative was actually took us less than 1 week from the moment we have the idea, the moment that we plan, towards the moment that we can land it in the market. So compared to normal days, this initiative would probably take weeks or months to do, but within this difficult time, we learned that we can do it in a much faster way. So we realize that as a digital company in this digital age, as things happen very, very fast, our speed would be even much faster than that. So these are the 2 learning points that we have. And I hope that with a very quick talk of showing how Baemin has adapted to the situation of COVID-19, it can give you the type like strategy and then the communication adaptability that digital enables. So thanks for your talk, and I'm open to any of your questions at the end. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Thao. Thank you very much, Ms. Thao, for that insightful presentation about marketing strategies and communications adopted by Baemin during this pandemic time. Before we proceed to the next presenter, may I remind the audience that questions will be entertained at the end of the second presentation and after the recap in Vietnamese. However, you can type your questions anytime on the chat box located on the lower right side of your screen. Kindly indicate the name of your presenter who you want to ask the question to. Okay, at this point in time, we would like to welcome our next presenter, Mr. Tom Simpson. His presentation is titled What COVID-19 Can Teach Us About the Evolution of Marketing in a Digital Age. Over to you, Tom.
Hey, thank you very much for inviting me. And fantastic presentation, Thao. I really enjoyed that. And I thought it was indicative of a lot of things that I'm going to talk about in my presentation, actually, about what COVID-19 can teach us about marketing in a digital age. Okay, next slide. So as this is an academic setting, I'm going to start with a thesis. And my thesis is that everything is different and also nothing is different. And I'm hoping you're thinking right now, well, how can both of those things be true? How can everything be different and nothing be different? And I'm also hoping by the end of this presentation, I will have persuaded you that my thesis is correct and that everything is different. And also at the same time, nothing is different when it comes to marketing. Okay, next slide. So I'm going to start off by looking at some research. This is some research that we deployed across Asia Pacific, Southeast Asia and in Vietnam. And it looks at consumer behaviour over the COVID-19 period. I think the first key point is that, yeah, I mean, things have been very different. I think we all know that things have been very different. Across APAC, 74% of people working from home. Across Southeast Asia, 88% of people working from home, and in Vietnam, 90% of respondents working from home. So broadly, consumers experiencing a very different life. Next slide. And you know, one of the key things that happens with consumers spending a lot more time at home is that they're spending a lot more time on their smartphones. And we can look at that across generations. In Vietnam, we can see, you know, Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, all spending 80% plus more time with their smartphones. We can look at that compared to TV, where consumers aren't spending so much additional time. So real increase in smartphone usage during the COVID-19 period. Next slide. And then looking at what consumers are actually spending time doing, really interesting. So a few key areas that I've picked out here. Video streaming, so an uplift in video streaming, a big uplift in mobile gaming. In fact, Vietnam sees a higher uplift in mobile gaming behaviour than is average across Asia Pacific. A bit of an uplift in TV, a big uplift in online shopping, and an uplift in food delivery. So Baemin there talking about, how lucky they are to be a digital native brand engaged in food delivery. Absolutely, borne out by our research and what we saw consumers spending time doing. Interestingly, although an increase in social media, not a huge increase in social media behaviour, certainly not as much as we see in other kind of either key media or key digital channels. Next slide. And again, just kind of, cutting this across generations, we can see that all generations are spending more time with video streaming, mobile gaming, online shopping, food delivery. It's not just kind of, Gen Z, Gen Ys, it's Gen X and older also spending more time. One of the interesting things that we saw is that actually the reason for those higher increases with older generations is that the older generations were at a slightly lower level of existing usage. So more of an increase from older generations as they start to engage more in online shopping, start to engage more in food delivery, a bigger increase there, but increases across all generations, all age groups. Big move into online fulfillment, online entertainment, lots of channels. Okay, next slide. And this change in consumer behaviour has been seen, it results in different engagements at different times during the day. So we can take, again, the example of mobile gaming. So mobile gaming, we would typically see a peak in mid-morning and then a peak in afternoon through to late night. Now mobile gaming is just an all-day behaviour post-COVID-19. It's just all day. Pulling out online shopping, historically the big peak time for online shopping was during the evening. That's when consumers would spend time on online shopping. What we've seen during the COVID-19 period is an additional peak in the morning. So consumers shopping online between 10 and 12, where previously this wasn't a peak in consumer behaviour. So we've seen consumer behaviour changing. I think one of the most interesting things that we've seen is in that food delivery area, and I don't know if Baemin would bear this out, but where previously food delivery, the biggest peak that we saw was during the evening. Now we see three peaks. We see a peak at breakfast, we see a peak at lunchtime, and we see a very clear peak in the evening as well. So food delivery has moved from being more of an evening activity to a 3 times a day activity during COVID-19. And I've included a little call to action to download the Baemin app there. I hope Thao is happy. Okay, so consumers spending more time with digital channels and peaks at increasing times during the day. Next slide. And we can look at that consumer behaviour again across different demographics. Parents, young males, young females, working professionals. This is how consumers are indexing against different behaviours. So we can see a high index for young males, young females and working professionals against mobile gaming. Similarly, we can see young males and young females indexing against food delivery. Video streaming, again, very high index for young males and young females. So all generations beginning to index more strongly against some of these channels, and you'll see a kind of declining index versus TV. But broadly, again, consumers, all age groups, all demographics, whether they're parents, whatever, big shifts in consumer behaviour towards these digital delivery channels. Next slide. And just to kind of finish off this bit, I think one of the most interesting things that we've seen is that 1 in 4 Gen Z and millennials see these changes as permanent changes in their lifestyles. So here we've got the reach of different channels, gaming, social media, streaming, and then we've got the percentage who see the change as a permanent change in their lifestyle. And you can see, again, broadly across most demographics, but particularly focused on that Gen Z, Gen Y area, lots of consumers saying this is a permanent change in lifestyle. I've started playing more games, I will continue to play more games. I've started watching more video streaming media, I will continue to watch more video streaming media. So really interesting changes driven by COVID, but permanent changes from COVID. Okay, next slide. I just wanted to do a deep dive into online shopping and food delivery and mobile gaming, because these are 2 of the channels that really came out strongly in Vietnam as having shifts in consumer behaviour. Next slide. So the first channel that we're going to deal with, online shopping, food delivery. So one key stat is that across Vietnam, 45% have purchased something online in the last 2 weeks. So that's 45% of the population have purchased something online in the last 2 weeks. So that's a huge, huge percentage, almost 1 in 2. Next slide. And then looking here at different items that consumers have purchased online, so different categories. So 49% have purchased groceries online, 43% have shifted more into food delivery, 24% clothing, and interestingly still demand for items like travel, so consumers spending time still looking at travel, and spending time looking at bigger ticket items online. So consumers will purchase those big ticket items, whether it's large electrical goods, mobile phones, big ticket items are included in that online purchase. Next slide. But just kind of diving into the really kind of granular categories, I don't think this would surprise anyone. The biggest vertical that saw an increase in Vietnam was epidemic prevention, gear and drug purchase. So what we see is consumer behaviour shifting really towards those essentials. So big increase in online purchase of essentials, things that people need. If they can't get fulfillment in an offline setting, then they will shift to online. And then moving down the funnel, food and beverage and household, again, really essential items for most consumers, and most consumers again shifting into those online channels. And then also, interestingly, medical life insurance prompted perhaps by the situation, personal care, interesting for FMCG brands, Unilever, P&G, who've seen a lot of their fulfillment move to online channels. So lots of granular verticals seeing increased online purchase in Vietnam. Next slide. And then just wanted to look at gaming, mobile gaming. So 42% are playing more mobile games since the outbreak. And remember, in Vietnam, 53% of mobile gamers are female. Gaming is not a kind of teenage boys in their bedroom thing. It's just everyone thing, to be honest. So 53% of gamers are female. Next slide. So where we've seen that real increase is in consumers mobile gaming either daily or multiple times a day. So a 55% increase in consumers playing mobile games multiple times a day. So 17% of consumers are now playing mobile games multiple times a day, and 29% of consumers are gaming on a daily basis. So that's now 1 in 2 consumers are gaming on a daily basis. So, you know, incredible increase in mobile gaming behaviour. Next slide. And that's really borne out when we look at downloads across the app stores in Vietnam. So 140 million gaming apps have been downloaded in Vietnam over the past 30 days. And you can see that gaming accounts for 38% share of all app downloads in the past 30 days. So gaming, you know, really, really strong category in Vietnam. Next slide. But that story that we're seeing in Vietnam, honestly, it's not a Vietnam only story. Gaming apps are the top trending apps in every country across APAC, other than China and New Zealand, where there are music streaming apps. But everywhere else across Asia Pacific and even in China and New Zealand, you look at the top 10, it's a lot of gaming. So this kind of rise of mobile gaming during the COVID-19 period is not just Vietnam. It's an Asia Pacific thing. Honestly, it's a global thing as well. Next slide. And I just wanted to talk very quickly, just touch on the importance of mobile gaming and gaming in our society. Gaming is, I think most brands are thinking of gaming as the new social, as the new social space. The ultimate expression of consumer online behavior in a social sense is not scrolling through feeds of static content, other people's photos. It is hanging out in a shared space with their friends. And what we call that, hanging out in a shared space, is the metaverse. So we see consumers moving from static vertical feeds of content to true social interaction in XR, extended reality spaces. And this trend is something that we call the metaverse, and the metaverse will be born out of gaming. So this shift that we're seeing is really interesting on a consumer behavior level, interesting if you are a gaming publisher, interesting if you're a brand and you want to reach consumers, but actually on a, you know, meta level, it is super exciting. The metaverse is the next big iteration of the internet. It's as big as the introduction of the social era. Next slide. Okay, so I think if we're you know, if we're looking at everything that we've seen so far, I'd ask the question, is everything different or nothing is different? And I think, you know, we'd probably agree that everything is different. Consumer behavior has shifted massively. Let's have a look at those shifts. Next slide. So big shifts in consumer behavior. So the first shift, work from home world. So 90% or more of consumers are working from home. So social isolation. I know that this is beginning to shift back in Vietnam, you know, but there's an element of social distancing that will still go on for the next 12 to 18 months. Game of phones, so big increase in consumer gaming behavior. from streams to rivers. So 39% of respondents have increased their time spent on video streaming, and a switch to online shopping and food delivery. So 45% of respondents purchased something online in the last 2 weeks. So these are big, big shifts in consumer behaviour. Next slide. So I think, yes, we can tick this box. Everything is different. But if everything is different, how can nothing be different? Well, let's jump to the next slide. Fundamentally, what we're seeing, and I think Thao touched on this during her presentation as well, this is really just an acceleration of existing trends. And even the metaverse that I touched on, that's an existing trend that's out there already. So what we're seeing is an acceleration in long running, and I've pulled up trends here for consumption of different channels in Vietnam over the period 2016 to projected in 2021. And we can see the rise of mobile gaming now bigger than social, but also the rise of social media, the rise of food delivery and online shopping and video streaming, the decline of TV, print and radio. So these are trends that are already embedded in society, and you know what COVID-19 has done has accelerated them. So yes, everything has changed, everything is different, but things were going to be different anyway. Next slide. And what's really interesting actually is it's not about digital marketing, it's about marketing effectively in this digital world. So consumer behavior has changed, but does that mean that we change what we're doing as marketers? Next slide. I think marketers can sometimes be a little bit like this cartoon. This year will be all about AI, yes, and podcasts, yes, and nano influencers, yes, and social commerce, yes, and blockchain, yes, and voice search, yes, and live video. Shouldn't we talk about our strategy first? Anyway, this will be the year of VR. So I think marketers are very attracted to shiny objects. Marketers and brands spend a lot of time looking at changes in consumer behavior and responding to those. But next slide. I want to talk a little bit about the reality and about the dangers of responding only to consumer insights with complete shifts, with an everything is different attitude. It's dangerous, everything is different. So strategy versus tactics. Next slide. Something really, really common that I see lots of people talk about is these huge shifts in consumer behavior. The purchase funnel is dead. It's a purchase squiggle, or it's a purchase maze. It's a purchase all over the place. This is the new consumer journey. So a consumer interacts with a brand, and then they go to a brand page, and then they find some customer reviews, and then they search, and then they go on social, and then maybe they go offline to buy or online, but then they go back to reviews, and it seems very confusing. And it has changed to an extent. The consumer funnel is not as linear as it once was, but still over this new consumer behavior, we can overlay the purchase funnel. Next slide. So the classic purchase funnel. The purchase funnel is not dead. At the beginning of the consumer journey, we see an awareness point. We see a point where the user, the consumer, becomes aware of the brand. The consumer then moves through a consideration phase where they understand more about the brand, how relevant it is to them. There's a conversion phase where the consumer is moved to purchase either in an online or an offline channel, and there's a retention phase where the brand continues to engage they offer deals, the user moves into perhaps their CRM program. So first of all, I'd say yes, the consumer journey has changed. So on a tactical level, we can understand that things are different. But on a strategic level, we still think about consumers and what we want to do with consumers as brands, as marketers, as business owners in exactly the same way. The purchase funnel is not dead. At a strategy level, the purchase funnel is exactly the same. It's as healthy as it ever has been. Next slide. So I just wanted to look very quickly, just touch very quickly at how we might redefine the purchase funnel for marketing in a digital age, which is what we talked about for this presentation. So awareness is still making consumers aware of your availability in the market. From a tactical perspective, you need to be present in channels where consumers spend time. So yes, that has now changed. So strategically the same. Awareness is still about making consumers aware of your availability. From a tactical perspective, be present in channels. Consumer behavior has changed, more streaming, more mobile gaming. So make sure you're present in those channels where consumers are spending time. So everything is different and nothing is different. Consideration is about relevancy. So relevancy to consumers. And that's both a creative and a media job. And consideration is about providing information, making consumers' lives easier, something that is increasingly easy to do in the digital age. But don't forget to make them love you. So the power of creativity and the power of brand is still as important as it ever has been. So consideration, strategic, but tactics change because of how we can engage, and some brilliant examples in Baemin about tactically how you can deploy that relevancy to consumers in a digital age, in a hyper-connected, in a dynamic messaging environment. Conversion, motivations for purchase. So convenience, again, Baemin, convenience is everything. We're all used to hitting our phones and getting whatever we want within 5 minutes. So convenience, digital fulfillment is an important motivation, but don't forget to connect online and offline. That's still there. And conversion is still, is an important strategic goal. Tactically, how to deliver it has changed. Retention is, I think, the area of the purchase funnel where we've seen the most change in a digital age, in that CRM is all pervasive. Feedback, reviews are all pervasive. Brands have moved far beyond the functional value in the era of review culture. So your brand exists online. The functional value of your brand exists online in consumer reviews. So retention, again, strategically the same, tactically how we think about it has changed in a digital age. Next slide. So that's my thesis, and I hope you've followed along with me. I hope that we've arrived at the point where we can agree both that everything is different and that nothing is different. So everything is different in terms of consumers, and it always will be, because consumer behavior will continue to change. TikTok is an emerging channel in Vietnam and all across Asia Pacific. 5 years ago, it was Facebook. In 5 years' time, it will be something else. Consumer behavior will always shift, and it will shift increasingly rapidly. So everything is different. And tactically, that means how you connect with consumers is different. But from a marketer perspective, from a what we do as marketers, and from a strategy perspective, nothing changes. We still think about the 4 Ps, perhaps with a little bit of evolution. We still think about AIDA and purchase funnels. And there are lots of other marketing frameworks that we use to understand how to connect with consumers. And consumer insights, those changes in consumer behaviours, are fuel for what we do as marketers and how we use those strategic principles to change our strategic execution and push that back into real world applications and how we deliver our marketing tactically in the real world. So everything is different and nothing is different. Next slide. So yeah, there you go. That's my thesis. And I'm going to read out my thesis, as this is an academic setting. So my thesis: 1, marketing has been changed and changed utterly by the digital deviation. 2, at a tactical level, our discipline is barely recognisable from the one that started the new century. 3, this change has been accelerated by COVID-19. 4, but on the strategic plane, it's very much business as usual. 5, we have fabulous new marketing tools to play with thanks to digital, but the age-old questions of marketing, insight, creativity, positioning, engagement, and ultimately effect remain as crucial and elusive, because it's still difficult, as ever. 6, everything is different and nothing is different at the same time. Thank you very much. There you go. 2 ticks.
Right.
Nothing's different.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Tom. That was a very interesting presentation. I'm sure the audience love your logical contradiction about everything is different and nothing is different. Again, may I remind the audience to start typing in your questions. We will entertain those after the Vietnamese recap. So for now, let me hand you over to Tuan to do the recap in Vietnamese. Tuan?
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Tom and Ms. Thao, for excellent presentation. But at the same time, provide a lot of useful information. So my name is Thuận, Program Manager of Digital Business. Before we move on, allow me to summarize some key points of the talk in Vietnamese because we have parents joining in this event. Kính thưa quý vị và các bạn sinh viên thân mến, tôi tên là Nguyễn Hoàng Thuận, trưởng bộ môn kinh doanh số, trường đại học RMIT. Sau đây tôi xin phép tóm tắt bài thuyết trình của hai vị khách mời trước khi chúng ta chuyển sang phần thảo luận. Trong thời gian này, xin mời quý vị tiếp tục đặt câu hỏi trong phần chat box ở bên dưới của cái Teams. Về bài thuyết trình đầu tiên của bà Vũ Thảo, công ty Baemin có thể tóm tắt như sau. Chiến lược marketing hay chiến lược tiếp thị của công ty có thể thích ứng để phù hợp với các hoàn cảnh khác nhau. Thích ứng luôn luôn là điểm mạnh của các kênh tiếp thị số, cho phép truyền tải thông điệp đến khách hàng nhanh hơn, đúng mục tiêu, đúng thông điệp, chi phí rẻ hơn và có thể đo lường được kết quả. Covid-19 là một bài kiểm tra về tính thích ứng của tiếp thị số và công ty Baemin là một ví dụ thành công về ứng dụng tiếp thị số để thích ứng với các hoàn cảnh mới. Sự thành công trong chiến lược tiếp thị của công ty Baemin nằm ở khả năng thích ứng với hoàn cảnh mới, gồm các nội dung sau. Muốn được đối thoại với khách hàng, tôn trọng giá trị cộng đồng, quan tâm và hỗ trợ khách hàng, tài xế và đối tác, lắng nghe khách hàng. Ứng với các nội dung trên, Baemin đều xây dựng các chiến lược tiếp thị số phù hợp. Qua đó, tiếp thị số của công ty thích ứng và phát triển trong đại dịch Covid vừa qua. Điều quan trọng là các chiến dịch tiếp thị trên đều được thực hiện trong và triển khai trong khoảng thời gian rất nhanh. Ví dụ như là chúng ta có chiến dịch Eat at Home hay là TikTok đều được triển khai trong khoảng thời gian dưới 1 tuần hoặc chỉ vài ngày từ khi lên ý tưởng tới khi được thực hiện. Như vậy, kinh doanh số và các kênh tiếp thị số cho phép người làm tiếp thị xây dựng văn hóa thích ứng trong cái đội ngũ làm tiếp thị của mình, có khả năng thay đổi nhanh, phù hợp với thay đổi của thị trường để truyền tải thông điệp đến khách hàng và giữ vững giá trị thương hiệu của công ty. Trong bài thuyết trình thứ hai, thì ông Tom Simpson cũng nói về tiếp thị số trong đại dịch Covid và bổ sung thêm một nhận định hết sức thú vị. Mọi thứ đã thay đổi, mọi thứ vẫn giống nhau. Everything is different, nothing is different. Bằng các số liệu cụ thể, bài thuyết trình đã chỉ ra sự thay đổi trong hành vi của người dùng giữa đại dịch Covid. Ví dụ, 90% người lao động làm việc từ xa. Game trên điện thoại trở nên phổ biến và số lượng khách hàng sử dụng game trên điện thoại tăng 55%. Xu hướng mua sắm trực tuyến tăng 66%. Dịch vụ xem video trực tuyến tăng 72%. Và dịch vụ giao hàng thức ăn nhanh chuyển từ chỉ phổ biến vào buổi tối, nay phổ biến cả 3 buổi luôn, sáng, trưa và tối. Tất cả các con số trên chỉ ra cho người làm tiếp thị rằng phải thích ứng với các thay đổi trong hành vi người dùng. Nghĩa là tiếp thị số phải tiếp cận với các kênh tương tác mới, các nền tảng mua sắm trực tuyến, game trên điện thoại, dịch vụ xem video trực tuyến. Và đây là minh chứng cho nhận định mọi thứ đã thay đổi với đại dịch Covid. Mặc dù vậy, mọi thứ vẫn giống nhau. Tiếp nối các xu hướng chuyển đổi số, bản chất của tiếp thị số vẫn giống nhau, nghĩa là người làm tiếp thị vẫn phải tìm hiểu và hỗ trợ các bước trong hành trình khách hàng, bao gồm nhận thức, xem xét, mua hàng và giữ chân khách hàng. Qua đó, người làm tiếp thị phân tích và xây dựng những chiến lược tiếp thị phù hợp, đẩy nhanh quá trình mua hàng cũng như gây ấn tượng về thương hiệu và sản phẩm. Như vậy, bản chất của tiếp thị số là không thay đổi. Với các ý ngắn gọn nêu trên thì phần tóm tắt của tôi xin dừng lại ở đây. Xin cảm ơn quý vị và các bạn sinh viên đã chú ý lắng nghe. Bây giờ chúng ta có thể chuyển sang phần thảo luận. So, I will go back with the moderator. Thank you. So back to you, Arance. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tuan. We have a lot of questions coming in right now, so I'd like to read them out in the order that they appear on the chat box. All right, so let's start with the first question from Ms. Melanie. This question is for Ms. Thao. What is Baemin's brand responsibility for the long term after COVID-19? Example, tackling more important social issues in your corporate social responsibility strategy. For example, sustainable delivery services, such as promoting and enforcing policies to your B2B partners not to use plastic containers. Again, the question is, what is Baemin's brand responsibility for the long term after COVID?
Okay, thanks for the question. It's actually a very good one, as the whole COVID-19 also make us think differently about our contribution to the society as well. So I think the attention towards health concern is probably the #1 responsibility that we feel after the whole situations. So I think people are thinking more about their own health as well as the health of the community in total. So for the future, we think that we'll have to step up in this area in order to kind of like promote healthy eating so that people can prepare for the pandemic to come, and also to prepare our merchants on a new trend that's coming in the market. So I think you mentioned about plastic. So that's more of our always on agenda. That probably not even triggered by the COVID-19, but I think it's already been there, going on for quite a while already.
Okay, thank you very much. The second question is still for you. What are the key differences in terms of unique selling proposition of Baemin and other strategies to compete with several ride-hailing applications like Grab, GoViet for market share? And this question is also the same with another one who asked, like, how does Baemin stand out from the existing companies in the market, such as GrabFood and Now?
Yeah. So I think there are quite a lot of factors coming in, not just from marketing, but also from business as well, when it comes to building a competitive advantage in the market. So for the sake of the sharing, I think I can probably share the two. So number one, as I have introduced from the beginning, so with Baemin, we are operating entirely in the food vertical. So what we want to do, not just the last step of food delivery, but more on how we can support the whole food ecosystem, from food producing, food manufacturing to food delivery. So that's a very different approach that we take compared to other competitors in the market. But given our presence in the market is just 1 year, for other factors that can complete our strategy, we're kind of still building it up for now. And the second thing that we really believe in is to build a brand that is super relevant towards our target audience. So compared to other players in the market, our target audience is really focused. So we're looking for the office worker, mostly in urban areas. And we want to be a lifestyle companion with her, not just in food, but in many, many other aspects of life.
All right, thank you very much. Our third question is addressed to Tom. It's coming from one of our colleagues, Nunu. He'd like to thank both presenters for very interesting discussions. And he said he found the use of digital technologies among Gen X and millennials particularly interesting. It seems that younger people are more susceptible to greater uses of technology, but the extent to which their behavior is permanently effective post-COVID, I found remarkable. He said he found remarkable. As a tourism scholar, he would like to ask Mr. Tom Simpson to share his opinion, if he shares the opinion of the travel experts that this is a particular crucial time to advertise travel via social media and other online platforms to younger generations. And if so, how can the travel and tourism sector capitalize on it?
Okay, really good question. I think it's been, there's tons of research looking at what happened to brands who stopped marketing in previous recessions, previous downturns. So the biggest one is, the Great Depression, late 2008, 2009. And outcomes for brands that continue their marketing activity are much, much better. A few years later, they will have seen growth. Brands that didn't continue their marketing during a downturn will see, flatness, and they will, on average, they will never pick it up again. So lots of research out there showing the importance of continuing to market during a downturn. So, I mean, the travel industry needs as a whole to kind of, to understand that. And I think it is. If you stop talking about travel, then you're going to, you're potentially at risk of losing a generation of consumers. I think the flip side of that is it's difficult to do anything if you haven't got the cash. So well-capitalized travel brands have a real opportunity to get ahead. Or, similarly, we've seen tons of startups that come through in periods like this. If you're a startup, now is a great time to launch because you can just ride the economy as it goes up. You can take advantage of the fact that so many bigger brands are ducking out right now. So important to market right now, important to do it. In terms of specific opportunities, I mean, there are tons of influencers out there who are, still have big audiences, may not be able to travel, but, will have time to work with you, time to give to brands. Mobile gaming is a big opportunity. We've seen consumers spending more time with mobile gaming. So, engaging with the mobile gaming space is a way of getting in front of consumers. There are tons of opportunities. Costs are lower than they would be. You have media influencers who would be really keen to work with you. So, yeah, lots of opportunities.
All right, speaking of opportunities, there is another question from a colleague of ours. She said, regarding the increase in mobile gaming in the Asia Pacific, does this trend translate in advertising revenue for gaming developers? What about ROI or conversion for advertisers? Do they see consumers buying their products or services from buying advertising in gaming platforms or applications?
Wow, so many bits of that question to unpick. I'm going to start with the most interesting bit of it, which is that, you know, consumer behavior shifts fast. We talked a lot about changes in consumer behavior. Actually, even though marketers love shiny new things and sometimes spend too much time talking about tactical stuff and what should we be doing in TikTok, actually broadly as a whole, marketers take quite a lot of time to get on top of trends. So although people talk about TikTok now, really the money won't come for TikTok for another 2 or 3 years, the big money. Smart brands like Baemin are probably investing now. Other brands will take a lot longer and the big money will take a lot longer to move. So consumer behavior always leads marketers by quite a long way. So I think, you know, in mobile gaming, the smart brands are starting to get across mobile gaming. So we've seen big FMCG brands like Unilever, P&G, Thao, you know, handset manufacturers, Samsung, big digital kind of tech businesses like Google getting across mobile gaming, putting, you know, lots of money into advertising in mobile gaming. There's a mid and long tail of advertisers who haven't quite got their heads around mobile gaming yet, but, you know, the increase in behavior with COVID-19, they will start to shift budget, but it's, you know, it will grow fast over the next few years. So I think that answers, you know, kind of the bit around, is there more money coming into it? Because ultimately that then flows down to gaming publishers. If you're a gaming publisher right now, you're getting some money, but, you know, advertisers aren't putting money in at the top yet, so it's not coming down to you. But when they start, the big money starts coming in at the top, then gaming publishers will start to do better. In terms of what brands see off the back end, I mean, it's a really interesting experience that brands have in mobile gaming. So a couple of kind of key points in mobile gaming. Firstly, mobile gaming tends to not be a second screening activity. So when consumers are engaging with social media is the best example. They tend to be second screening. So they'll be on their phone, but they'll be doing something, have something on TV. So there's, you know, yeah, second screen. With mobile gaming, they tend to be mobile gaming and focused on mobile gaming, and, you know, so no second screening. So you get much more attention as a brand in a gaming environment because consumers' attention is focused on you. I think the second key part is rewarded video. So if you think of, you know, standard advertising environments, maybe, you know, in a Facebook feed, you have a video that's coming down and maybe you don't see it, but whatever, it's a video and it's kind of pushed at you as a consumer. You don't have a choice about it. In YouTube, you get an ad pushed at you. You've got to watch it before you get to watch the video that you want to watch. In mobile gaming, video tends to be rewarded, which means a consumer runs out of points, needs a new life, and they're offered the choice of either you can buy more points so that you get what you want in the game, or you can watch a video and you can get it for free. So it's a, you know, there's a choice, consumer choice. So it's a very different experience, and consumers bring more goodwill to brands with that experience because they're not having the ad pushed at them, forced at them. It's their choice. If they want to pay, then they don't have to watch the ad. But, you know, if they want to get it for free, they have to watch the ad. And that kind of transparency and sort of real conversation is much better for consumers. So off the back of that, brands see much more of an uplift. So brand metrics tend to be much higher because you've got the consumer's attention. They're coming to you with a much kind of happier attitude. The ads are viewable, all this kind of stuff. But you do tend to see more of an uplift associated with mobile gaming. So it tends to work quite well for brands.
All right, thank you very much. Actually, very interesting because this is something also that we can, because this is the latest trend now, and we're offering digital marketing. This is also an example that we can set in class as regards to integration of mobile learning in, you know, in digital marketing. Anyway, we have a few minutes left for question and answer. Let me ask Ms. Thao. There is a question here. It says, has COVID-19 situation changed the company's communication objectives?
Yeah, so I think this is an interesting question. But I think for a short answer, the answer is no. So our objective remains the same. So we always want to be as relevant to the users as possible, whereas we want to promote our brand and our services at the same time, of course. But I think the way we do it and the speed that we did it was very much different from our normal communications. So I think very much similar to the point that Tom said. So everything is different, whereas everything is still the same. So that's the same kind of answer to the question.
The next question would be my question. We see a surge in online traffic. Has your company invested in additional digital infrastructure or automation so that your business operation will become more flexible or adaptable to the COVID-19 situation?
Yeah. So actually, during the COVID-19 situation, we didn't, but we did a lot more effort post the COVID-19 lockdown because we realized the importance of automation and also of the supporting system that has to be there in case when the crisis happened.
Okay,
so,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay. Here is a question for Tom. I see Woolworths included in the platform for online shopping with Lazada and Shopee. She is confused. It's the Vietnam's market, right? Do Vietnamese really shop from this Australian supermarket?
It would be, I'll tell you what, it would take a long time to get your groceries delivered from Woolworths in Australia to Vietnam. And I'm not sure it would even be possible with the shipping at the moment. Yeah, that was a mistake. That was a template that we used. So we actually left the Woolworths app in there. So there were a number of apps that were indicative, and that one was left in accidentally. And I didn't see it, and I'm very sorry. And I hope they can order their groceries from Woolworths.
Okay. One last question for each one of you. This one is addressed to Ms. Thao. There's a question here. Could you please share your revenue model?
Sorry?
Could you please share your revenue model?
Revenue model. So I think it's a little bit sensitive to share, given that we're not yet a listing company. But I think for food delivery, we're looking for revenue from few different sources, as I think you can just Google and know the answer. So definitely we got the commission from the merchants who work with us. We also get the commission from the riders who we partner with. And we also have a different line of business where we operate our own kitchen, which is called the Baemin kitchen.
Okay. One last question. This is coming from a student. I'd like to ask Mr. Tom, thank you so much for your engaging speech. I truly like your thesis. As far as I know, marketing students, when they first enter the industry, we have a lot of imagination and myth. Do you have any advice for the people who have just entered the market to help us get over the myth? He did not specify with his imagination and myth, so you have to better guess that.
No, I mean, I think it's fantastic, and I think that young people coming into the industry should retain their imagination and creativity and think about innovation, and that is the great thing about people coming into the industry. Over time, people learn more and become more expert in their craft, and marketing is a craft, and maybe they will go back to school and they will do further marketing education, maybe an MBA, a master's, and learn more about their craft and become better craftspeople, and they will evolve to understand things more holistically. So I think it's important that young people coming into the industry retain that creativity, imagination, innovation, and myth. Really specific stuff, you know, getting rid of myths is getting close to the data. So, I mean, everything starts with consumer insight. Everything that we do in marketing starts with consumer insight and understanding the consumer. So if you want to get rid of myth, just get close to the data. Have a look at some real data. What are consumers really doing? Where are they really spending time? And it may surprise you. A lot of marketers don't do it enough. And so they get lost in myths. So look at the data. Follow the data.
Follow the data. All right. Okay. Before we will end this session, any last words for our audience? We'll start with you, Ms. Thao.
So I think the last word is probably being adaptable and get the best that digital technology can offer, because the COVID-19 really taught us a lot of lessons that we think, even though our objectives remain unchanged, but the way we gonna achieve it gonna change a lot after this event.
Thank you so much. Tom?
Yeah, I mean, for me, first of all, good luck to everybody, to all of the students here on their careers in marketing. I hope you enjoy it. Marketing is a really interesting industry. You know, stay close to the data. Consumer insight is everything. But I mean, just following on from what Thao said, and I think we're both talking the same language. You know, understand your objectives and what you're trying to achieve strategically, but change how you execute tactically based on, you know, what consumers are doing and the opportunities of new technology and all of that exciting stuff. And you won't go wrong if you do that.
Okay, thank you to both for engaging our audience in this Q&A. Before we end our session, let me hand you over to Professor Robert to do the closing remarks. Bob?
Yeah, thanks very, very much indeed. First of all, to Miss Thao, with an enlightening talk on adaptability and brand persona and brand responsibility, as well as those new services. And good luck to Baemin, and hopefully you're going to overtake all of your competitors. Also to Tom Simpson, who enlightened us with his talk on consumer behavior and its behavior now in the digital space, especially for both of you with COVID-19. Really interesting talks from both of you. Thank you very much indeed. It's been really useful, and fortunately we've got the recording, so very well done. Could I really now alert our listeners to the fact that there is a Business Talk 4, which is due on the 17th of June, and it concerns trends in Vietnamese fintech market. So a really good follow-up to what we've heard today to extend that digital understanding about what's going on in Vietnam. And again, thank you very much to our two presenters. We've really enjoyed it. Thanks very much indeed. So farewell, everybody. Thanks a lot.